To start off this chapter, we lay dying in a desolate wasteland. Beside us is a headless monk playing a Chinese banjo. He sings to us about a rat yaoguai who turned a once prosperous land into a barren desert. The song also mentions how Sun Wukong brought an end to the rat Guai's terrible reign with the help of Buddhas. This is in reference to a trial from Journey to the West over 500 years ago.
Wukong's master Tripitaka was captured by a minion of the rat yaoguai named Guai, the yellow wind sage, who was a yellow-furred marten that gained his powers from drinking the oil of a Buddha's glass lamp. Wukong could not fight through the yaoguai's terrible wind magic, so he sought the help of a bodhisattva named Lingji. The bodhisattva gave Wukong a magical item called Dingfengdan, a wind-taming vessel that neutralizes the yaoguai's wind magic. With this item, Wukong was able to defeat the yellow wind sage and save his master. The yaoguai was about to be killed when Lingji intervened and said that he will take the rat guai as a disciple. And so ended trials number 13 and 14 out of 81 in Journey to the West.
Back to the game. In case you're wondering, the headless monk is singing in a Chinese opera style called Qingqiang, which originated from the Chinese province of Shanxi. It's a traditional method for storytellers to spread their tales, as the headless monk is doing here. Anyways, the headless monk says he knows why we're here and pulls us back from the brink of death. He then disappears for now. As we try to remember how much we drank last night, we start exploring the land. After taking 2 steps in the right direction, flaming arrows fly at us from out of nowhere. Okay, so that's what happened last night. This land is infested with rat yaoguai, and not a single piece of greenery in sight. Once again, we have to piece together what happened in the past and what we're dealing with in the present. Based on the lyrics of the headless monk, it seems that the yellow wind sage had something to do with this desolate land. After we go through a few deserted villages and rat patrols, we meet a sketchy dog Guai standing in a dark alleyway. Inevitably, he tries to sell us drugs, and remembering the teachings of our great ancestor Sun Wukong, we chug the pills like beer at a frat party. So his name is Shou Dog, aka Shou Dog on the streets. He tells us that one of his formulas was swallowed by a petty frog and says that he is a deity who will repay us if we helped him get the formula back. So like a good simian, we go murder the frog without hearing his side of the story. There is a frog Guai in every chapter, and we will have a separate video explaining their backstory. It's a thought-provoking and bittersweet story, so stay updated by smashing that subscribe button with your cudgel, like I smashed that frog. After defeating the frog Guai and subscribing, we return the formula to Shou Dog, and he gives us a few pills that grant buffs. He also tells us how we can make our own pills by collecting material around the land. These pills are called Xian Dan in Chinese, and are used to grant longevity or boost powers. Shou Dog says he will go look for a furnace to make more pills for us, so we go our separate ways for now. As we wander around with our innate sense of directions instead of a map, we encounter 2 rat yaoguais talking about plans of returning their kingdom to its former glory.
Son, I hear you loud and clear. How can I not know your sufferings? But before our master returns from the valley, we've got to tough it out.
They also mention that their master will help them once he returns. We find out they are actually the king and second prince of the kingdom of flowing sand. The 2 of them notice us, and our first duo boss fight begins. Although duo would be a stretch, since the father only throws rocks and hurtful words at us from a distance, after we defeat the son, the rat king escapes, and the headless monk shows up once again to throw some musical shade at the yellow wind sage.
哪个说了才算，哪个放任不管。你瞧那书背都家人情，可怎么就落得个子王斧头？
The song lyrics basically say that although the king was loyal to the powerful rat yaoguai, his ending and that of his sons was a bad one, which means they should never have placed faith in a yaoguai, and should have worshipped Buddhas instead, right? Well, you'll be the judge of that. After we fight our way through a large cavern, we once again meet the king. He uses his blood to summon a giant rat yaoguai from the pit.
Son?
It turns out this monstrous yaoguai is also his son, the first prince, who is obviously crazed because he attacks and eats his father in one bite. The giant rat Guai eventually turns his attention to us. And one friendly conversation later, we have defeated all the royal rat bosses. And with their journals, you can piece together a story of what happened to this royal family. This was once a prosperous kingdom, until one day a monstrous insect started destroying countless villages and towns, killing many in its path. The destruction continued until one day a yellow-furred rat Guai passed through this kingdom and decided to help its people defeat the monster. This earned him the king's deepest respect, and the rat Guai was appointed as the royal sage. He counseled the king on everything, from state affairs to the tiniest details of daily life. And at the yellow sage's suggestion, the king issued the Rodent Reverence Edict, which prompted rodent Guais from all over the land to migrate into the city and live amongst the humans. But this ain't a fairy tale ending. Though the king fully trusted the rat Guai, the princes did not. The king had 3 sons. The first prince was a great warrior who also helped in defeating the monster. Though he was honored, he felt that much of his glory was stolen by the rat Guai. The third prince was deeply devoted to Buddhist teachings, and he also did not trust the yaoguai. Together they tried to remove the rat Guai from court. However, they could never succeed in shaking the king's trust in him. Their upheavals resulted in the death of many of their followers. Angry, the third prince left the kingdom. The first prince continued to challenge the king's royal authority, and so he was put in jail. Until one day the prince's cell door unexpectedly opened and he walked out. To his horror, the guards and officials bustling about were all rats dressed in human robes. The prince thought for sure this was the rat Guai's doing, and in his panic he charged into his father's golden throne room. A short rat called out to him in his father's voice. The prince was about to strike the rat when the royal sage brought forth a bronze mirror. It showed the prince that he too became a giant rat. Unable to handle the shock, the first prince went crazy and has been kept in a deep hole since. From these stories, we learned that the Yellow Wind Sage showed up one day and helped the people of this land defeat a monstrous insect. He and the rat Guais were honored, and eventually something happened that turned all the inhabitants of this land into rat guys. Exactly how the people turned into rats and where the monstrous insect came from, we don't know yet, but we will find out. Now, you might be wondering what the second prince was up to during all this. Well, he's simple of mind and was neither the smartest nor the strongest of his brothers, so he was the least favorite child. However, he has always stayed loyally by his father's side, and was the only one who could prevent the Tiger Guai, another follower of the Yellow Wind Sage, from eating all of their people. If you kill the king first, the second prince goes into berserk mode, and the animation and song lyrics will change a bit as well. But the ending is the same. The king and his 2 sons all die, with the third prince's whereabouts remaining unknown. For now. In the first prince's arena, there is a hidden entrance that will reveal itself after you, or the first prince, headbutts the wall. Inside the chamber, there is a dragon scale and some wall art. The painting depicts a scene from Journey to the West when Sun Wukong became the pupil of his first master,菩提祖師. It is also hinted that the immobilizing spell was given to the Keeper of Land in Chapter 1 by Zhu Shi so that it could be passed on to us. It seems that Wukong's old teacher has not forgotten him and is trying to help us on our quest. And he's not the only one pulling strings behind the scenes. It seems several celestial factions have their eyes on us, and our quest might just be a crucial part of their schemes for more power. We're like the hot girl everyone knows, but we have no idea who they are. Anyways, as we explore the land, we once again meet the horse yaoguai from the Black Wind Mountain. He is heavily tied up, and we wonder once again if this is safe for work. He says he's here to speak with the king, but the rat Guais captured him without listening. He then assures us that he is fine and tells us to go on our way. It seems like he's been traveling around to speak with the yaoguai leaders of different places. For what purpose, we will later find out. We leave him to his questionable activities and move forward in our quest to finding the next relic of the Great Sage. Around the Yellow Wind Ridge, you will see several Buddha heads laying on the ground. You can collect their golden eyes, which are imbued with power and can be used later. No one knows exactly where they came from, but they emerged from the ground one day and started terrorizing the inhabitants of this land. A stone Guai tried to get rid of them, only to have these Buddha heads take control of its mind and body, and began feeding on living creatures. This continued until our ambiguous hero, the Yellow Wind Sage, happened to be passing by. Apparently, he had just strolled over from the desert kingdom of flowing sands to this mountain. He once again decides to help by defeating these terrible Buddha heads. It turns out he had left the kingdom of flowing sands burdened by the belief that its people had turned into rats because of him. He saw it as a divine punishment, and it seems that a higher celestial power had transformed the entire human population of that kingdom into rat Guais. But why? That is an important mystery we will uncover later in this chapter. We also find out that 2 mountain deities had helped the Yellow Wind Sage during the battle, so he gave them the spiritual essence he took from the Buddha heads and dramatically boosted their powers. They are the father and mother of stone, who created most of the stone Guais in this land. This actually caused the treacherous Tudi Gong of Yellow Wind Ridge, the keeper of this land, to become jealous, and he tried to steal their essence for himself. But the stoners found out and locked him up in this stone cage where he is now basically a stone. He tries to trick us into getting the rest of the Stone Mother's essence for him by lying and saying that the Stone Mother was an evil yaoguai, when the fact is, she's just trying to protect the inhabitants of this land. This is a good warning that as we go through the stories of each character, we must keep in mind that every story you see and hear could be biased. They could be filled with half-truths and sometimes outright deceit. The journals also tend to be from the perspective of a single character, and therefore it will likely be biased. To uncover the true story, we need to gather everyone's accounts, examine the situation from all angles, and piece together the full picture of what really happened. Which sounds a lot like homework and not what I signed up for. But here we are. As we pass by a pile of rocks, it absorbs the energy from our golden Buddha eyes and comes to life. This stone Guai is called Shigandong, and it's the same one that was possessed by the Buddha heads many years ago. He was sealed by the Yellow Wind Sage until we broke the spell. In the same area is the Stone Vanguard, another follower of the Yellow Wind Sage who guards the sealed stone Guai. And he honestly could have done a better job of preventing me from unleashing this horror. If you awaken Shigandong first, the two will duke it out until the Stone Vanguard dies. We then dust off our cudgel and give the remaining stone Guai the old booty-bashing bonanza. At some point along the journey, we meet a drunk Pumbaa leaning against a rock. Apparently it's been rough since Timon left.
Raise thy cup, seek answers on high. Who defies death neath every sky? Oh, I messed up my mission. Go find something to sober me up.
As we wonder what mission he is talking about, he says he needs something for his hangover. So we find some ancient Chinese Advil for him, and he says he feels better but is now hungry and tells us to meet him by the Crouching Tiger Temple. Once we get there, we meet the Tiger Vandguard, who is a powerful follower of the Yellow Wind Sage. Several lives later, we finally defeat the Tiger Vandguard and 200 years of game design. We once again meet the boar Guai from earlier, and this time he has digestive issues from eating too many rats for his hangover meal. We get him a piece of lotus and he pulls himself together long enough to bring us to a set of large stone doors. He randomly tries to fight us, as alcoholics do, and asks why we have his senior brother's gold piece. It seems like he is part of a brotherhood and was sent on a mission by the senior member of their group. After defeating him, he laughs it off and says we can explore the realm together using the gold pieces. As we step through the entrance, we are transported to a forgotten age, back when the Yellow Wind Sage first arrived in the Kingdom of Flowing Sands, then known as Sahali. Our journey has led us to face the giant beetle Guai that once terrorized this land. This fearsome creature is called Fuban, and it has a magical vessel that suppresses the Yellow Wind Sage's wind magic. After we defeat the old Tiger Vandguard, who asks us to spare him because he has 2 cubs at home, we finally meet the Yellow Wind Sage in person.
You bested my vanguard. Then you do indeed have skills.
He asks for our help in retrieving the vessel that holds back his powers, and together we face the monstrous yaoguai in an epic battle, a clash that will decide the fate of this kingdom. After defeating the Fuban, we discover its journal, which holds the truth to what happened in this land. Piece by piece, the veil lifts, and the real story of the Kingdom of Flowing Sands unfolds before us.
This tale begins long before the Yellow Wind Sage ever set foot in these lands. The Kingdom of Flowing Sands, once rich in gold and prosperity, faced a terrible curse. Each evening as the sun sank into the western seas, the waters would boil and hiss, emitting a sound so dreadful it would snuff the life from babies as they slept in their cradles. The people endured this torment until one fateful day, a Buddha appeared, offering them salvation in the form of a sacred drum. The drum's resonance neutralized the deadly sound from the seas and restored peace to the kingdom. Grateful, the people erected statues of Buddhas in every corner, and in their reverence they renamed their home the Buddhist land of gold. As time passed, their devotion to the Buddha eclipsed their loyalty to the king. Enraged by this, the king decreed that Buddhism be purged from the land. Temples were destroyed and monks were exiled. The kingdom was stripped of its faith and was renamed Sahali. The king's impious actions were not without consequences. One day, when the sacred drum was struck, a monstrous beetle of immense power erupted from the ground. It left death and destruction in its wake. The people believed it was a divine punishment for the king's actions, and the once blessed land fell into ruins. From that moment on, the sound of the drum would summon the creature, unleashing its chaos.
And we know how the rest of the story goes. The Yellow Wind Sage arrived and helped defeat the Fuban. Rodents became revered throughout the kingdom, but soon after, everyone turned into rats. Guilt-ridden, the Yellow Wind Sage left, and the once prosperous kingdom fell into ruins. The king then led what remained of his people to the Yellow Wind Ridge, hoping the sage would help him rebuild his kingdom. From these stories, it seems the Fuban was likely sent by the Buddhas as a form of divine punishment for the king's attempt to erase Buddhism from the land. The citizens were also likely turned into rats by the Buddhas as a punishment for revering rat guais instead of them. And there's another mystery we must consider: the origin of the deadly noise from the western seas. It couldn't have existed before the kingdom was built, or no civilization would have flourished there. This suggests that the curse of the hissing waters came after the city was built and may have not been a natural phenomenon but a carefully orchestrated event. This raises unsettling questions regarding the Buddha's involvement in the kingdom's rise and fall, and it makes you wonder how it all fits into the great cosmic chess game of the Celestials. Because as you will see, that's honestly what people are to the gods and Buddhas in this world. Even the Celestials themselves are chess pieces, and only those at the very top are players. We once again meet the powerful fortune teller Yuan Cheng, who emphasizes this fact. He tells us how the Dragon King of the Jing River was sentenced to death for a small mistake. But there was likely a plot behind all this, and the celestial courts used his mistake as a convenient excuse to kill him. Yuan Cheng seems to believe that fate is predetermined and no one could change the outcomes because his predictions always came true. What does fate have in store for us? We'll just have to find out. Also, something to note is that we haven't traveled back in time to fight the Fuban. What we experienced was a projection born from someone's Jian, a deep obsession and fixation so strong it created a phantom realm from those memories. The likely source? The first prince himself. You had to defeat him in order to gain access to this realm, and the scene you experienced was likely from his memories, as he was the one who helped the Yellow Wind Sage defeat the monster. This moment was the start of the end for him and his kingdom, and so it became his Jian. As we journey deeper into the land, the giant tornado looming in the distance gets closer. Along the way, we uncover the tragic history of Yellow Wind Ridge, a place once teeming with life. Now it's nothing more than a barren wasteland, ravaged by an ominous wind that has been sweeping through ever since the Yellow Wind Sage returned from being a disciple of the Bodhisattva Lingji. It's clear that something has changed within him, and the shift likely came after the downfall of Sun Wukong 500 years ago. Once, the Yellow Wind Sage sought to protect humans, despite being a yaoguai who could have easily preyed upon them. But now, that compassion has completely vanished. Human life means nothing to him anymore. The winds he brought with him have wiped out everyone who once called this place home, leaving only death and desolation in their place. This wind drained the very essence of life from the inhabitants of this land, but it does more than just kill. If you're already dead, it may reanimate you as a withered corpse, forcing you to wander the lands and never obtaining peace even in death. As we get closer to the heart of the windstorm, we encounter the Tiger Acolyte upon a bridge. This fight brought back some repressed memories. After defeating him, we receive a toy rattle drum, and as we step into a nearby village, we hear a child talk to us.
I'm here, little monkey.
His disembodied voice leads us to a well and tells us to come play with them down there. We immediately jump in like we have endless lives and come face to face with another tiger, Guai. We meet the Mad Tiger, who is the brother of the Tiger Vandguard we fought earlier. He's also the son of the old Tiger Vandguard we defeated before meeting the Yellow Wind Sage. After their father kidnapped Tripitaka and was killed by Wukong, the two cubs were left to fend for themselves. The older brother worked hard to become a protector deity for Yellow Wind Ridge. When the Yellow Wind Sage returned with his ill winds, the younger brother fought him but was gravely injured. To save him, the older brother submitted to the sage and became the new Tiger Vandguard. This caused a rift between them, and the younger brother left to regain his strength beneath the well. Despite his servitude, the Tiger Vandguard resented working for the sage, and vented his rage by devouring the rat yaoguais of the Kingdom of Flowing Sands. After defeating this tiger Guai, we uncover a tragic story. The tiger acolyte we fought on the bridge was once a swordsman, desperate to save his child from the sickness brought by the cursed winds. He encountered the mad tiger Guai, who posed as a god and offered a cure. The child drank from the yaoguai's gourd and was miraculously healed. But in exchange, the swordsman was forced to bring people for the tiger Guai to devour so it could regain its power, with the promise that his child would be fully cured in time. One day, the swordsman returned to find his son brutally beaten to death by the villagers who had discovered his dark secret. Consumed by fury and heartbreak, the swordsman slaughtered the entire village in his rage. Overcome by grief, he eventually became the tiger acolyte we battled earlier. If you explore the arena carefully, you'll find the coffin of the little boy, a somber reminder of the tragic events that happened. The sorrow, anger, and fear brought by the cursed winds all paint a bleak picture of just how deeply this land has suffered. Once, he could have been a hero who protected people, but the Yellow Wind Sage has now become the villain once more. His winds have devastated countless lives, and it's up to us to put an end to all this, no matter the cost. With this in mind, we venture into the heart of the storm.
Besides every sage, a villain resides. Beneath every mountain, an abyss lies. Where disparities persist, bloodbaths may arise. I cannot escape, and nor can you!
We now face the Yellow Wind Sage in a final battle determined to free the land from his suffocating grasp. Once, he sought to escape his fate as a yaoguai, longing to be a hero who helped people and hoping to be worshipped like a god. But those dreams were snuffed out long ago. Seeing the fate of a powerful yaoguai like Sun Wukong, who despite achieving Buddhahood was ultimately eliminated in the end, the Yellow Wind Sage lost all hope. In his despair, he took the head of the Bodhisattva Lingji, using its power to cultivate the sacred relic of the great sage. He wanted more power, no matter the cost in lives, all while waiting for the inevitable. A final blow from the heavens to end his suffering once and for all. This is his last stand, fueled by his shattered dreams and desperate desire for a fate beyond the limits of a yaoguai. If you have the Wind Tamer vessel from the Fuban, you can neutralize the Yellow Wind Sage's magic, making the fight much easier. Also, we have to question why the Fuban would have this vessel in the first place. It's almost as though it was planted by the Buddhas to make sure the Yellow Wind Sage would not be able to subdue the beetle Guai by himself. In fact, the Yellow Wind Sage might have been lured to the Kingdom of Flowing Sands and Yellow Wind Ridge by the golden power of the Buddha heads that he could sense. It seems they orchestrated his downfall to further emphasize the fact that a yaoguai could not be good, just as a Buddha could not be evil. And any attempts to break free from this celestial order will only lead to your downfall. With one final blow from our cudgel, we defeat the Yellow Wind Sage.
You disciple you stole your long spell and snatched the great sage's relic. You even took your master's heed, just for a short reign over this barren valley.
It turns out the headless monk who's been guiding us and singing defiant songs against the Yellow Wind Sage was none other than the Bodhisattva Lingji. Somehow his head was taken by his own disciple, who wanted to use it and harness the power of a sacred relic. In the end, Lingji chose to entrust the relic to us. This second relic is called Erting Nu and is directly translated as Ears Hear Anger. It serves as a profound reminder to not blindly accept the first story we hear and to avoid forming emotional attachments that might cloud our understanding of the full truth. It teaches us that every tale has more than one side, and we must seek clarity before passing judgment.
After all the stories and revelations we've encountered in this chapter, we hope you found your own perception of the truth. We leave this chapter with a final quote from Lingji, one that will stay with us as we continue our journey.
Men, beasts, Buddhas, yaoguais. Each of them bears a distinct root from birth, superior and inferior. None should disturb what's decided. Am I right, Sun Wukong?